Now what we're going to do is use a filter. So a filter is kind of like an effect on a layer. You've seen us use this a couple times in the course. So let's go ahead, right click our wood grain layer, and we're going to add filter. Now by default, it will add an empty filter, and then you need to choose a filter. So what we can do is click here, and then we can either scroll through all of our filters, and you can take a look at all of these. There's some such as warp, transform, triplanar, mirror, and then there's blurs, glows, gradients, a lot of like basic effects you're probably familiar with. One really cool one that's very useful when you're creating stylized materials, which we'll be using a couple times in this course, is this matte VFX oil paint. So we're going to select that, and we will see that it will then apply an oil paint effect here. Now let's go ahead, and for now, to make this a little easier to see, we're going to turn off the height there. And this effect takes a little longer to load, so we'll have to kind of wait for it to kind of recalculate. And there we go. So we can see that the oil paint has kind of gone through and made an oil paint effect of our texture there. It's also gone through and created a normal map. So we have our height map turned off, but you can see that it's still kind of feeding information into normal. So now that we have that there, you can leave your height map on if you want the kind of like extra bit of added detail, or if you want that option. I'm going to go ahead and turn the height map off because this oil paint's kind of doing some of the work for us and pushing some of that information into the normals. And I don't think we really need a full-blown height map or displacement map for wood, given that we're not doing any cracks in between boards or things like that. So what we're going to do is take a look at this oil effect. So if we click this, and I drag this up here so you can see more of the settings, you can see that there are a ton of settings here, and you can change your input type from your base color, diffuse, or image input. We're going to leave it at base color of this wood grain effect that we have inputted, so that it's looking at the wood grain procedural texture to kind of modify. And then what we can do here is take a look. We have effect intensity, fine detail, sharpness, roughness variation, roughness details, normal intensity, normal directions influence. So if we come over here to the normal, we can take a look at what it's doing to the normals there. And I do think it is a bit intense. So you can go ahead and change that intensity if you want, but let's come back up here to the material. Then down here, we have strokes, highlights, midtones, shadows, backgrounds, contour, canvas. We could spend probably 30 minutes to an hour breaking apart this effect. However, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. If you twirl down strokes, you can adjust all the various parameters of your strokes. What I want to show you is that you can actually play with these presets up here, and for the most part, you can get away with just using these presets. So you have kind of default, stylized high details, stylized low details, and a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. So let's go ahead and do stylized low detail and see what kind of result that gives us here. So one thing I found when working with the oil paint is that it delivers great results for the base color and the roughness, and it kind of gives you this kind of matte, kind of painted look, but it doesn't always deliver on the normal information in the way that I want. I feel like this kind of normal or height information here is still kind of pretty intense and feels realistically. Now you can come into the matte VFX here, and you can take that normal intensity and you can turn that normal intensity down, which will kind of help reduce kind of its normal influence. So we'll go ahead and let that load.